Okay, guys, I'm back. I am so sorry for what happened out there. I was trying to use the internet on my phone. If you're just tuning in, this is Jamerica 5288, and I want to talk to you today about the frost and how you need to go out there and collect your things. Because if you don't, all of your crops will start rotting. The vines are dead. So I had all of these tomatoes, well, most of these tomatoes, about half of these tomatoes were harvested today. And I just went out there and harvested some ginger. Now, I mean, it's not a lot, but it's more than I had in the refrigerator. And everybody knows that nowadays ginger is super expensive. So I'm gonna lay these out so you can see how much I got. I didn't realize it was this much. It's more than I expected because I put like maybe 3 little pieces out here. I'm gonna connect on here real soon. And I have about 1.5 pounds of ginger. I gotta wash my basket out. I don't like get my basket dirty. So let me connect. Let's see. So the thing is, when you plant stuff out there that are summer warm weather crops like ginger and tomatoes, which are not brassicas. Why do I keep saying brassicas? I got brassicas on my mind. Nightshades and these rhizomes like the taro out there, they're all suffering when the winter comes. Now, it doesn't mean that this thing is going to die, but most likely, if you leave it in the ground, it may rot and you just wasted. I mean, I put this thing out about 5 months ago. Why should I let the winter or take the chance of these rotting away after I kept them alive all of this time? Watering them because this was in a container. So I'm going to process that and let it, you have to let this dry out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clip off all of the stems and I'm going to take these and I'm going to dry them out. Or I'm going to use them. Most likely I'll use them. I need to make some ginger tea. Do I have anybody in here? I see somebody popping up. Let me log in. Let me see. I got to find myself. I have to find myself. Here it is. So I can see the live. I can see the chat. I'm dropping my stuff all over the place. I see 2 people in here. Well, there are 2 of them. One of them is me. Oh, hi, Bro Farmer. I just finished watching your live. I was like, oh, yeah. He just reminded me that I have ginger out there and I don't want it to go to waste. I was outside. I was on my phone's internet, and initially it looked like it was doing good, and then all of a sudden I bleeped out. Then I saw Urban Backyard Container Garden saying, you're in and out of, I was fading in and out. So I have to figure out another way because if I go too far away from the house, the internet doesn't work. So I picked a bunch of tomatoes today. Some of them I gotta get to the chickens because something was eating that. Probably that rabbit. Oh, I'm so sick of that rabbit. But this is what I got. If you're just tuning in, this is what I got from the ginger. A whole bunch. And this, as I said, this was planted at spring. And all of this, and it's a lot, isn't it? I mean, I'm showing you some of it, but there's more up here. I have tomatoes for a long, long time. What I do is I sit them on this table until they turn red. I just got another bowl this morning. The rest of them are already frozen. I get a bowl as they ripen. I move them closer to the sun, and sometimes I slide this table closer to the sliding glass door so that they get some sun to ripen. And as they ripen, I move them over here, and I just start putting them in a bowl. I don't want to mess your name up. Garrick Family. Giarc family. I don't know how to pronounce that, but that's why I spelled it out. Thank you for being here. So as I gather these tomatoes, most of them, because it's frozen, are going to be green like this. And some people say, hey, you're supposed to wait till they start blushing, and this is what blushing is called. right? I can't wait that way. I can't wait for that because it's cold out there and these things are going to rot. So if you have anything out there that looks like it's struggling, especially your peppers, I lost some peppers. I waited until yesterday evening to pick some of the poblano peppers, and they were all wilty, and so I just threw them out because I don't want to take the chance of getting sick. But the tomatoes were still good, so I went out there this morning, and it's 70 degrees, so the freeze came in one night, knocked down everything. Now some of the tomato plants are still alive. Knocked down everything and then left. It's 70 degrees now. So I pick them when they're green, and on this table, they start blushing. Some of them will be blushing when I get in. My hands are dirty because I just finished coming out of the yard. So this is what blushing is called. This is what blushing looks like. And this is a green tomato. Eventually, it's going to change color and become red. It's just not, it tastes better, they say, if you leave it on the vine and you pick it when it's blushing. And the reason why people pick their tomatoes when they're blushing is because they don't want the animals to come by and eat it. Shani, 2003, how are you doing? I'm talking about harvesting your plants, your summer plants, as soon as possible, because if you don't, you're gonna lose your crop. I mean, it's you know, it's not too late. Today is not too late to go out there and pick your things, get them out of the ground, because if they freeze, you've lost them. I lost some peppers. I was really upset about that. It wasn't a lot, but it was, you know, I worked for it. It's Texas out here. It's super hot. You struggle to keep that stuff alive. I don't want to lose not one thing. So I went through on the tomatoes, and y'all will see the video later because that thing is a long video. That was a lot of work, and I didn't get all of them. I went through, and I didn't pull them out of the ground, or I tried not to, because after a while I just got frustrated. I chopped them down. I left most of the roots in the ground, and I went through on each stem and picked off all of my little cherry tomatoes. Some of them were already, so this is what happens when they freeze. That's no good. Little shriveled up thing. Throw it in the bucket. Does anybody have any questions in reference to harvesting your stuff? And if you know there's a freeze coming in, you have something that you know is going to freeze. What I did that night, I went out there in my garage and I got my tarps out. I covered up because I didn't put my greenhouse up yet. I took that tarp and I draped it over. And you should have a tarp in your house anyway because hurricanes and all this stuff. At least in Texas, we keep tarps available just in case something happens to our roofs. I took that big old tarp and I draped it over my Barbados cherries and took some plants, whatever I could do to hold the tarp down, because I have had times where I put stuff over a sheet or a tarp over something and the wind blew it off. So I took some plants and I covered that thing up. I tinted my Barbados cherries. Now the lemon and lime trees, they could take a little freeze. As long as there's no icicles forming on the leaves, they can usually take 1 or 2. Not for a long extended period of time, but if it gets a little cold, like here, I think it hit 32 degrees. It was freezing. But the lemon and lime trees are fine. Those Barbados cherries, they'd have been dead. They would have been dead. So I took a tarp that it was made for the roof of my house, covered the 2 Barbados cherries up, put plants all around it, took that off when it started warming up the next day. They're just fine. It's like it never happened. All the little plants out here, my tomatillos, tomato plants, I have a whole bunch of aloe vera out here. I bought blankets from Mexico and I covered those things with those little blankets. Those blankets are like $5 or three for 10 or something like that. I took those and you didn't kill your Barbados cherry. Those things are delicate. Last year they were in this house. So I'm taking a chance by leaving them out there this long. I'm kind of nervous, but I have the greenhouse that I have to put together. So I'm going to try to do that today and get all that stuff in there. I don't have a heater, but I have a house heater. I guess I could bring that out here and put it in the greenhouse, but I don't want to leave the Barbados cherries out there again. And I mean, I was out there with a flashlight in the middle of the night because I didn't realize it was going to get cold. And I'm watching the news and it says, oh, freezing temperatures in Central Texas. I said, oh, no, it's coming down here too. I ran out there in the dark and covered those things like a crazy woman with some tarps and I had blankets. There was sheets all over the back of the yard. Everything that was like a seedling that I thought would die, or the nightshades, the tomatillos, the what are those things called? Blueberry tomatoes, the aloe vera, the pepper plants that were out here close to the door. All of that stuff was covered with blankets, sheets, and tarps. They were everywhere. So the Barbados cherries are fine because it had a roof tarp on it. It didn't have any air, but who cares? You know, I just didn't want that wind to come and whip across and knock off all the leaves. Hi, J3GS Farm. How are you doing? I see you on lives all the time, so I figured it's my turn. You know, it's almost Christmas. I ain't gonna be on here around Christmas and New Year's, but I could do it now because this was a surprise for me. I didn't expect. Normally, we don't get cold in Texas until February, end of February, March. That was a surprise. That they say I'm in zone. I was in 8B and now, I was in 8B and now I'm in 9A, but it froze out here, and it only takes one night. It's like being a little bit pregnant. It's either cold or it's not. Growing my own, how are you doing? I'm so glad to see you. So I was talking about the freeze and how you need to go out there and harvest. I got a table full of tomatoes. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to preserve them because I can't eat all these tomatoes. And my friends, you know, some of them, they say they want them. And then what am I supposed to do? Deliver it to them? No, that ain't going to happen. That's not going to happen. You're like, I go to the grocery store and get some tomatoes. I don't feel like going over to America's house. A little pregnant. Either it's freezing or it's not. You can't be a little bit pregnant. You're either frozen or you're not. And your plants, if they freeze, is what they're going to look like. I'm growing my own. Hey, growing my own. Okay. So anyway, I went out there and I got my tomatoes. I got some peppers out there that I need to go out there and get, but they're in containers. So that's the thing about container garden. That's the good thing. I'm sorry, y'all. I have dirty hands. I just went out, came inside. That's the thing about container gardening. You can move those jokers. The ones that are in the ground, there's nothing you can do. The ones in containers, you can move them to a safer spot when you need to. And I needed to, but I couldn't because some of them were in the ground. The only ones that I keep in pots are peppers. And that's because here in Texas, it gets so hot that you can't have your pepper plants in direct sun. So I just wanted to get back on here and talk about what happened. It wasn't a disaster. It was something that I could have found out about had I watched the news. Normally, I ask my Amazon, you know, I ain't gonna say her name. It starts with an A because she'll start talking. What the temperature is gonna be, and she was wrong. She was off. Normally, she's not. She was off. That storm came in. Man, I was out there with a coat covering everything. I forgot about these until I watched Broke Farmer today. Then I was like, oh no, ginger. I can't let that go. That's too expensive. That's more expensive than the darn tomatoes. Even though I got a million of these jokers, this little bit right here is probably more expensive than this whole table. This is about a pound and a half. So, does anybody have any questions? I got these garlic. I got garlic on my mind now too. These ginger, I started these from the supermarket. I went to the supermarket one day and, you know, I buy garlic and I saw, you know, the little garlic there. And then I saw little green tips on it. Normally, these growers, they're real mean about it. They'll chop off the little green part. They'll scrape it. And you won't notice because they'll let it, it's been in the store so long, it scabs over. But if you see little green growths on your garlic, on your ginger when you get it, plant it. Break it up and plant it. It'll grow. That's what I did. And it was only like, I think they were like, this would have been 3 of them that I put into that that tote. So all of you who are in here, who I don't know, there's 5 of us in here, but all of you who are in there already know about the tomatoes and go out and how you should go out there and get your stuff. All of the brassicas are fine. My Swiss chard is like it never happened. Swiss chard, last year the Swiss chard got hit by the Arctic freeze and it died. They were seedlings. I was upset about that. They died all the way to the ground. Once the next day when it warmed up, well, it was for a couple of days, it warmed up, they came right back. Yeah, this is the last of them though, growing my own. So the freeze came through. Oh, there's some on the fence line that are still alive, but the freeze came through and knocked all of them back. It's nothing but a bunch of brown brush out there. So yesterday, I think I had cedar fever. I couldn't go out there yesterday. And I was too distraught about having to go out there with the tarps and everything in the middle of the night. But the freeze came through and all of my tomato plants are brown. So I went out there with my shears and I chopped down the branches. I didn't drag them out of the ground. I tried not to because I don't want to leave the roots in the ground to decompose. I picked them up and I just started harvesting all of my tomatoes because these take, if these freeze, it's well below 32. The only way this will freeze is if we have consistent freezing temperatures or it dips, and I think it may have done that once or twice. No, it dipped a couple of times out here. If the freezing temperatures dip to almost 0, and that is a disaster in Texas because then everything starts going array. All of our electricity, all our water, everything. Texas is not built for cold. Not. We don't even go to work when it gets freezing. The bridges freeze over. They just tell you stay home. Don't come. They don't put salt on the roads out here. So they shut this bad boy down because they don't want nobody flipping over the bypass. I hate to say that, but that's what happens. Yeah, so this is what I have. I have some more tomatoes out there. I have to go out there again. I just got tired of picking them. My back started hurting. So this is what I have. Finally, because all summer I didn't get anything. Tomato plants. Tomato plants don't like 2 things. They don't like extreme hot. You'll see the flowers. If you see the flowers bloom and it hits 100, all the flowers fall off and you won't get any fruit. They'll stay alive, but they won't give you anything. Once it cools down, then you'll see the flowers come back. I didn't get any flowers that stayed on the actual plant until, I had some in early spring when I first planted them. The flowers came and the tomato came, and I harvested as much as I could because I knew once summer hit, I wasn't going to get anything, and I didn't until the temperature dropped in about September. Then the flowers came back. I saw a whole bunch of blooms. And, I've heard people say, fall is here, just take all that stuff up. Well, down here in Texas, it's still warm and nightshades are perennials. So you don't pull them up. You don't get rid of them, especially when you start seeing flowers on it. So I left them there and this is what happened. Now up north, if I was in New York, they would have been dead unless I pulled them in the house. You have a lot of small tomatoes too. So the reason why I planted the small tomatoes is because last year and the year before I planted the huge ones, and sometimes I didn't get anything or I didn't get anything till fall. I planted the small ones because the small ones, they bloom fast and they produce fast. So I wanted to get as much as I could out of these small ones, because I knew when summer came, I wasn't going to get any tomatoes. So I planted the small ones because I heard through the grapevine. And last year I planted them also. I heard through the grapevine that small tomatoes could take heat, and they can. But if it's consistently hot, over 100 degrees, which it was here in Texas for about 3 months, 2-3 months, the flowers are going to fall off just like the bigger tomatoes. Bigger tomatoes take longer to produce. I I remember one year I planted the big tomatoes out there around one of my crepe myrtles, and I got one tomato the whole season. The freezing temperatures took your Swiss chard. Yep, they come back. The Swiss chard will come back. When I was stationed in Kansas, I lived in Junction City, and I planted some cabbage, and that cabbage did not die. The Swiss chard, it got knocked back earlier this year because I put it out there in, I don't know, February, March, I think, and a freeze came and it knocked it down, and they came back. Broccoli, this is my first time planting broccoli, but the broccoli is just standing tall. It's out there. It doesn't act like it act like nothing happened. I guess broccoli likes. I know that you could not to plant broccoli in the spring. I planted some and it went straight to seed. So I planted that. I planted some Mitchie Healy, some of that Chinese cabbage that went to seed. I planted some bok choy. They just got stunted. I had them in a container. They never produced anything. They were just little plants for the whole time, and then they just died. So all of that stuff, if you don't have rabbits like I do, will produce. I see somebody on here. So I like cold weather. No, I don't. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I don't like cold weather. That's why I moved to Texas. I'm from up north. I've been down south for years and years in different states. And every time I was in a cold area like Kansas or New York, where else was I? That it was cold. Virginia. Virginia is not supposed to be cold, but I found out that was a lie. I did not want to be there. Once I realized how cold it got, Virginia is beautiful. Georgia is beautiful. Georgia has all those rolling hills, and I've been to Georgia. I've been to Atlanta. I've been to Lawrenceville. I've been to Decatur. I've been to what else? Where else did I go? Man, I've been all over going towards the East Coast, but I don't like cold weather. I might go to Georgia to visit in a minute, for a minute, a hot minute. I gotta find my winter coat. I'm not going to New York. It's too cold there right now. So does anybody have any questions about of the freeze that happened out here in Texas, in Central Texas? Nobody's safe. I moved here because I was like, I don't want to be cold. And every time it hits below 55 degrees, I start complaining. I got spoiled. Bro, I saw you in a coat, man. I was out there like this. You know what? I was raised in New York City where we had to dig ourselves out of the house. Dig ourselves out of the house. New York City, Queens. And sometimes the snow drift will go up. And I remember digging myself out of the house, and my grandma standing there with these big old metal shovels. And we'd shovel down the steps, shovel the walkways, we'd shovel the driveway, and then the sanitation department would come right by and shovel and scoop and drop all the snow back onto the driveway. So, I don't know. I don't do or talk cold. I know J3GS Farm. I know. I don't do cold well. I was born in the cold, but I don't think I was supposed to be there. I never liked it. Going across that, walking to school. I didn't have to walk. I take buses to high school, and man, that windshield factory whip around, slap you upside your head. Didn't matter how many clothes you have on, your ears are freeze, your fingertips, your toes. Oh no. I do it in the Army too, but I tried to make sure I was stationed in places that were warm. After I figured things out, I was like, oh no, this said keep on sending me. After Fort Riley, I said, no. Send me somewhere warm, please. I deserve it. I've suffered enough. So I thank you guys. Does anybody have any questions in reference to the ginger that I got from the supermarket? My garlic is out there from the supermarket. Also, I showed you all that thing where I put it in the little water bottle and sat it on top of the water bottle until it root. And then I put it out there. So if your ground is not frozen, and it shouldn't be yet in most places unless you're way up north, you can still plant your garlic. and your onions. Well, guys, I've been running my mouth for about 24 minutes. I'm sorry about the live. I don't know if I'm going to publish that. I don't know. Um, sorry about what happened out there. I grew my Tai Chi. I grew up in, oh, I, oh, I grew up in New York. And I don't know what the other one is. Tan Chi, I'm done. Then Chi, chill, I'm done. I grew up in New York too. Well, I taken the Q40, Q9, Q44. I was in Queens. I was in Brooklyn when I was little, but I was in Queens. I remember the wind blowing us across the street in Brooklyn as my auntie was trying. My auntie was really skinny. I'm the fattest one in my family. They're all little. They're all little. That wind blew. That poor little lady was trying to take us to school, and they blew all three of us in the street. Me, her, and my cousin. No. Chicago. I went to Chicago recently. Chicago is cold right now. Chicago, I love Chicago. I only been there one time. I made sure I walked all around, went downtown, got some of that popcorn that they talk about. But it's cold. It's cold in Chicago. I don't like cold weather. Although I have to say that down here, if it freezes, most likely you're going to lose your water and you might lose your electricity, because the ERCOT is who's running the electricity down here, and their system, if their system freezes, we don't have any electricity unless you're in one of those places that is attached to a hospital. Were you and the lady from he was on Jamaica Avenue. I was like, oh my God, that's where I come from. He said, where are we gonna go? Jamaica? I was like, uh-oh. Oh no, that's never good. Who is this? Sifting some soil? How are you doing? Jamaica, Queens is rough, man. It's still rough. I was driving from my mama's house because I had a new, what it was, a Mazda 626. This was years ago. Somebody tried to open my passenger door and get in. I ain't know him. He was gonna jack me. I can't go back down there. I'm not streetwise anymore. I'm saying hello to everybody. When I first left New York and I came down south, I was in Kentucky. And people were saying hello to me. I think I was in E-Town or Radcliffe or Muldrow, even in Louisville. They say hello to you. And I was like, what? I don't know these people. We don't do that in New York. We don't even look at each other. They be done follow you home and ring your neck. I'm a northerner, a city girl. And it took me a long time to adjust to, and I was 17, adjust to what's happening down south, the southern, hospitality. You don't do that up north. They don't talk to each other. We don't even look at each other. So, I was saying that this place is not made for cold. Our crops are not made for cold. Our lime trees, our lemon trees are not made for cold. And I put mine on the southern end of this property because I was like, I want to put it as far south. And it seems like the ones that are back there, no, they died too. The ones that are back there, or one of the ones that are back there, did better than the ones that were closer to the house. But it doesn't matter. I mean, they sell it here, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's supposed to grow here. I learned that the hard way because I lost a lot of trees. And trees are only getting more expensive. I just ordered some more trees. Because growing what I eat had me on there and got me all hyped. And I just started going on the site that he was talking about. Oh, that's cheap. I'll get that. Oh, I don't have that one. Get that. Oh, Lord. I hope the ground isn't frozen because I want to put them in the ground. So Be blessed. Go run out. Gotta run out. Okay, JG3 at G, excuse me, J3GS Farm. I'm gonna end the live. I thank you guys for being with me. I'm running my mouth and reminiscing about, my cold past and my warm past. But I appreciate you guys. This is Jamerica 5288. I hope you all have a happy holidays. If you believe in Christmas, Merry Christmas, or whatever holiday you're celebrating. And if you're not celebrating it, enjoy your time off. And I want you all to have a happy New Year, or they call it Old Year's Eve in some of the other countries. So I thank you guys for coming with me, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye. Look at this basket. I got it all dirty. Jesus Christ.